That must have cost lots of tens of millions to do all these wretched gates that hold me up coming out of Parliament now. All of that, I'm afraid, is arbitrary spend. It's not necessary, is it?
Stay with me, because the full video I'm about to show you puts everything into a new perspective. Right, so apparently, Parliament has discovered a brand new way to spend your money, and this time it's not on wars, hospitals, or even biscuits for the tea room. It's on gates. Yes, gates. Big, red, shiny gates designed to keep the great unwashed British public as far away from their elected representatives as humanly possible. Because nothing says "we work for you" quite like building a fortress to make sure you can't actually get near the people working for you. And the man who decided enough was enough, who looked at this situation and thought, no, hang on, something doesn't smell right here, was none other than Rupert Lowe, who turned what should have been a routine, sleepy committee session into an absolute farce of dodged questions, vague answers, and numbers that seem to multiply faster than rabbits in springtime. Real quick, before we roll the footage, if you're enjoying this content, do me a huge favour. Hit that like button and smash subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. Don't be one of them. It's free for you and it helps us out more than you know. Already clicked? You're awesome. Let's get into the video.
Can I just lastly, Chairman, understand, on your £1.5 million a week that you're spending on, I think you called it
repair and maintain.
Yeah. Does that include these wretched gates and everything else that have gone in? Is that all included, or is that on top?
It includes the works to the palace itself. Yes. So
the gates you put on the outside too. I mean, who signed all that off?
So the accountable officers in the houses are the Clerk of the House and the Clerk of the Parliament. They are the accountable officers and the corporate officers.
That must have cost lots of tens of millions to do all these wretched gates that hold me up coming out of Parliament now. I mean, who actually signed off on that?
4 million to be precise.
Sorry?
64 million.
I know, Geoffrey, but if you take 1.5 million a week, by the sort of crude maths that I employ, that's £75 million. What did it cost, Geoffrey? 46 million. So there's a large slug of it. That's included.
The figure 1.5 million is a live figure and changes depending on the portfolio of works undertaken by the parliamentary estate. It includes the wretched gates to keep the public out. As far as I understand, it includes all works of the palace, which we would include.
All of that, I'm afraid, is arbitrary spend. It's not necessary, is it?
Those particular works came under the security programme that was designed to make sure that members of both houses can continue to be safe and secure operating on this site.
When I talk to both members of both houses, they tell me nobody was consulted about it. So this committee made the decision to do it. But I mean, most MPs had no idea, and most of the Lords had no idea it was happening.
So business cases are obviously, Treasury-compliant business cases are produced for all parliamentary programmes and would include this one, Restoration Renewal. The one you're talking about is the security programme. That went through the normal business case process. It was approved by the accounting officers and the corporate officers, so the two clerks, depending in which part of the building it was on. And as part of that, those projects have engagement with the domestic committees, so the administration committee and the finance committee as normal. Restoration Renewal has a separate governance structure, but I think, Chair, you probably want to cover that in different questions.
It's in that 1.5 million a week, you're saying?
As far as I understand it, those costs are included in those 1.5 million pounds a week.
Point of clarification, the gates cost 64 million.
It all kicked off innocently enough, with Lowe asking about this eye-watering figure of £1.5 million a week being spent on what's been politely described as refurbishment of the Houses of Parliament. Now, £1.5 million a week sounds like a lot of money to anyone who's ever had to budget for a weekly shop, but Lowe wanted to know something rather specific. Does that figure include the cost of these new gates that have gone up, the ones apparently designed to keep MPs penned in like prize cattle at a county fair, or is that an extra little surprise on top? A perfectly reasonable question, you might think, simple yes or no. But oh no, this is Parliament, where nothing is ever simple, and where the art of answering a question without actually answering it has been refined over centuries into something approaching a national sport. The response came back that the 1.5 million does indeed include the works to the palace itself, which, translated from bureaucrat into English, means yes, probably, but don't quote us on it. Lowe, sensing blood in the water, pressed on, asking who on earth signed off on these gates, these wretched gates, as he so memorably called them, that now hold him up every single time he tries to leave the building. And here's where it gets properly interesting, because the answer involves something called accountable officers and corporate officers, specifically the clerks of the House and the clerks of Parliament, people whose job titles sound like they were invented purely to make sure nobody is ever responsible for anything. Lowe did some quick maths, because unlike some people in that room, he can apparently still do arithmetic without a calculator and a team of consultants. £1.5 million a week, he reasoned, multiplied out, comes to roughly 75 million. So he asked, quite reasonably, how much did these gates actually cost? And here's where the numbers start doing something rather magical. They start changing right there in real time, live on camera in front of everyone. First, it's apparently included in the weekly figure. Then someone pipes up with 46 million, which, fair enough, is a chunky number for some gates, but then, almost as an afterthought, almost like someone whispering the actual truth while everyone else is still talking, another voice mutters that the gates cost somewhere between 64 million and, well, it trails off, because apparently even the people meant to know don't actually know. Now, the official line on why these gates exist at all is, of course, security. It's always security, isn't it? You could build a solid gold moat around Westminster and the answer would still be security. The justification given was that these works fell under a security programme designed to keep members of both houses safe while operating on site, which sounds very serious and very important until you remember that Lowe pointed out something rather damning. Nobody actually asked anyone. He said that when he speaks to members of both the Commons and the Lords, the overwhelming response is that nobody was consulted, nobody was told, and most MPs and most peers had absolutely no idea any of this was even happening until suddenly there were enormous red gates blocking their way to the exit. So who decided then? Apparently there's a whole process, business cases, Treasury-compliant business cases no less, approved by accounting officers and corporate officers, with engagement from the Administration Committee and the Finance Committee, all very official sounding, all very much designed to create the impression of due diligence, while somehow still resulting in a situation where the actual elected representatives of the country had no clue what was going on with their own front door. It's a masterclass in process for the sake of process, ticking every box except the one that says maybe ask the people who actually have to use this building every day. And the cherry on top of this whole sorry cake came right at the very end, almost as a footnote, almost as if someone wanted it on the record but didn't want anyone to actually notice. A quiet clarification that the gates cost somewhere between £64 million and possibly more. £64 million for gates, to keep the public out of a building that, last anyone checked, is supposed to belong to the public in the first place. You couldn't write this. Actually, you could, because apparently someone bid, signed it off, and nobody noticed until Rupert Lowe started doing sums in his head during a committee meeting and accidentally exposed the whole thing live on camera. So there you have it, £64 million of your money spent on gates nobody asked for, signed off by people nobody elected, justified by a process nobody can quite explain, to keep you, the actual owner of the building, on the wrong side of the fence. Honestly, you've got to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you'll be doing the maths on what else that money could have paid for. And trust me, that road leads nowhere pleasant.